remember having a 10-minute conversation with Mark Zuckerberg backstage when we cornered Alex Volkanovski together. You're like, wow, this is the guy who owns Facebook, one of the richest people in the world. I'm just having a normal conversation. They don't go Sir Edmund Hillary,
Yes.
Mount Everest, All Blacks. Their immediate thought is like, that's the country that Israel Adesanya comes from. Now I'm a life coach half the time and I'm a technical coach the other half. I can have some of the wealthiest business owners in the whole country training, and I can right next to them have guys that are trying to get their life back on track who've got an ankle bracelet out who have just come out of prison.
Today we've got a top UFC coach here to coach all of us. Eugene Bareman, good to see you, mate.
Yeah, great to be here, mate. I'm not sure what I'm going to coach you on. Nothing to do with financial literacy, that's for sure.
Well, you were saying before that when you don't have any money, you don't have to worry about it. But when you do have some, then you realise now we need the knowledge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I come from a background that it wasn't a big thing to learn about money and finance and stuff. So, I come from just a middle-class family, so I didn't have a lot of money around me. And then as I ran into a little bit of money, it became apparent that I needed to acquire some knowledge quite fast.
Yeah.
I'm still on that journey, to be honest. I'm not by no means an expert. I'm an absolute beginner. But, yeah, just to know the basics, that's all I really wanted to know, just to know where my money's going, who's taking my money, who wants a piece of it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably plenty of those people out there as the journey has gone, which I'm sure we'll touch on. Firstly, I guess before we get into it, do you enjoy these things? So you don't have to admit whether you enjoy doing a podcast with me, but just having to be out in the media and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I've learnt to enjoy it, and I've learnt to look at it positively. I've learnt to see the positive sides of things like this, and the positive sides of things like this is the message and the amount of people you're reaching. If you can meet people, if you can, swing a positive message at someone, and that kind of touches them, that's the good side about these things.
Yeah.
So I think if you can focus on those things, they kind of overshadow, some of the negative things that come with putting yourself in the public sphere.
All right, let's go back to fighting. And I got the question here, how did you find fighting, or did fighting find you?
I found fighting. Yeah, I definitely found fighting. I was, I come from a rugby family, like a lot of young Kiwi lads, and I basically quit rugby and needed something to do. And just by chance, I walked into a gym. There was a fighting gym because I thought that would be a good way to stay fit. And then basically I walked into that gym and I just fell in love. And then I never stepped back on a rugby field for another 15 years or something.
Wow. And you were quite good at rugby, right?
I was okay. I was like a bit of a high school jock, like I was first 15 captain in my last year. And I was okay. I think I would have suffered in rugby. Like, I think I didn't have the size. I think I would have been too small to be successful at rugby, probably. So it was probably a good move for me to jump into a sport that's governed by weight divisions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could compete with people physically that were only my size.
And what was it about fighting or the gym and excuse me, the culture, etc.? What was it that you fell in love with?
Man, I fell in love with the fact that there was no dependency on other people. Because I felt like I was quite a stoic person. I did a lot on my own and I could push myself. But in rugby, I often got frustrated trying to pull other people with me. So, I really enjoyed that part, that you were the only one in there and you were solely responsible for the outcome, so to speak.
Yeah.
Given that you've got an opponent there, obviously, who's trying to get a different outcome to you. But I just fell in love that, I was solely responsible for my destiny, I guess.
How old were you at this stage?
No, I got into fighting quite late. I would have been like 22.
Yeah.
23.
And had you started like understanding stoicism or like self-responsibility, being in control, like those themes, or are they more you sort of looking back and see it?
No, that was just my personality as I grew up. Yeah, I just become a person that liked to be on their own, and I wasn't like I was social. I had friends and stuff, but I did lean a lot on me just being by my own, doing stuff on my own. Yeah. I just enjoyed my own company a lot when I was young.
Yeah. My partner's parents are actually quite big on, for their kids, you have to play a team sport and then do an individual sport to learn like both sides of that.
Oh, the excellent way, excellent example for kids. You've got to do both, because I feel like everybody's personality will fit into one of those two. And if a kid that's not necessarily thriving in a team sport, that doesn't necessarily mean they won't thrive if you put them in an individual sport, and vice versa. Yeah. So most the New Zealand way is to kind of gravitate towards a team sport. That's just like what we do. But I think that doesn't do justice to what a lot of the individual sports can do for you.
Yeah. So how many fights did you end up having yourself?
48.
Yeah. And I see there's a bit of chat about maybe getting to the 50.
Every year there's chat about that.
Is there? Yeah.
Yeah. But every year the world doesn't understand. I get busier and busier.
I bet.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
45 now, so I might be close to kissing that goal away, but never say never.
Well,
never say never.
You've probably sacrificed your own journey to then, help people go on their own, which is pretty bloody admirable in its own right?
Yeah, definitely in the latter half of my career, I realised that I had to put my goals aside because there was some bigger things happening.
Yeah.
So my fighting definitely took a back seat for some of the young men that I was training while I was fighting at the same time. Yeah, for sure.
You say that you've got a lot on your plate these days, and I'm sure we'll cover some of the areas of the things that have got you to where you are today, but what does your day look like, day to day at the moment in 2025?
Yeah, I wake up at 4:30, every day, and I try and get on the road to the gym by 4:45, and I arrive there at 5. I open up the gym. My first class is at 5:15.
Wow. And how many people would be at that class?
There'd be good 35, 40 people there. Yeah, sometimes more. Then I take another class at 6:45, and then that one finishes at 8. Then that gives me an hour to train one of my professional fighters from 8 to 9. And then by 9 o'clock, the whole professional team has come in. So all the guys that do this for a living have come in, and we train from 9 till 10:30. And then from 10:30 to 11:30, I take another professional fighter, just a one-to-one type situation. 11:30 to 12:30, I take another one. So I take another fighter. 12:30 to 1:30, I take another fighter. Where am I at? 1:30? 1:30 to 2:30, I'll take another one. And then by then I have to clock off, because from then I always pick up the kids from school.
Wow.
So that's a 3 o'clock pick up. Then we pick them up by, we're done. I'll pick them up by 3:15. Then I also do the homework and the kids' snacks after school.
Yeah.
So, what's that? That gets me to about just past 4, rush through the homework. And then normally 4:30 I'm back. So then 4:30 to 5:30, back training the professional fighters again. We do like a class.
They're the same ones that are trained in the morning, so they train twice a day?
Same ones.
Yeah.
Yep. 5:30 to 6:30, I'm doing another class.
As a class, I would say someone like me could come along to?
Yes.
Okay, not that I want to.
That's what I mean.
Everyday people. Yeah. So they're getting access to you.
I still do that. I enjoy that. So I want to keep it as a part of my life. I think that's till 6:45. I think that takes us to 6:30, and then 6:45 to 7:45 I do another class.
Wow. Yeah.
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 Then I hang around, and then I kind of wrap up the gym and talk to the patrons and do a little bit around the desk, and normally home by about 8:15.
Yeah.
8:30, and that's my day.
Wow.
And that's been my day for the last 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah. It hasn't moved much from that.
Yeah.
But I think, it's the consistency that got me any success.
I was going to say, what is the lesson in there for all of us that you would give us? Because a lot of us could take our own lesson from that. But what would you say is behind doing that way for 20 years?
That I love doing it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I passionate. I was lucky enough, and I try not to throw this in people's face because we're not all lucky enough to do what we want in life. But I was lucky enough to find something that I really loved in life, and I was lucky enough to pursue it and do it. And I've also been lucky enough to financially benefit from it, so that I don't have to look somewhere else to take my career. But mainly, when you do something like that for 20 years, you've got to love it. And I just love it. And that's why, I try not to throw it in people's face. But I literally get up and do what I want to be doing every morning. So it doesn't, it's it's an old cliche saying, but I don't go to work. You know what I mean? I've never been to work for the last 20 years. And that's cool.
Literally, just when you rolled up, when we were ordering these coffees and I spotted you downstairs, I was saying to Mikey and Taylor that I feel like that used to be a common saying, if you find something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's almost like we've been that, and people are obsessed with trying to find something where they don't have to do anything. And we're trying to optimize our lives for not working. But eventually you've got to do something with your time, right?
Yes. And for me, it's a little bit of a taboo subject. I don't like talking about it too much, because the fact of the matter, I don't come from that background. I come from a family that put the fact that they had to provide for their family first, above and beyond their own needs, and the fact that they might not like the job, but that didn't matter. What mattered above that more was providing for your family, whether it be like sustenance, school fees, whatever. That was the number one priority. I come from that background, and when you come from that background, it's not always easy to just go ahead and just pursue whatever you want to do. Yeah, it's kind of because they two kind of work in opposite sometimes. What I mean?
I think I've heard you say that you had a conversation with your family where you learned that they wanted to provide a life where you could be successful, and then determine what that meant for yourselves, right? As you and your siblings.
Yes, and super grateful for that. My dad is, man, I'm not going to lie, definitely some of the work ethic that I have comes from my mum and dad, who were just grinders, They just worked every day. And their main priority was making sure there was food on the table, clothes on their back, and just providing for their kids, so that their kids had just a touch more freedom than what they had. And with the kind of long-term idea that each generation gets a little bit better, has a little bit more options, so on and so forth. So, super grateful for that.
One of my goals is to help 100,000 Kiwis improve their financial literacy and in turn help create a better New Zealand. Generate has a very similar goal: to educate and empower Kiwis to make smart KiwiSaver decisions so more of us can be better off at retirement. That's why I'm stoked to have them on board as sponsors. Together, we can reach more people and make this goal a reality. If you've never got KiwiSaver advice before, book a no obligation chat with a Generate advisor at generatekiwisaver.co.nz/change. They'll even put you in the draw to win 5K worth of vouchers just for having a chat, whether or not you decide to sign up. T's and C's on that webpage. A copy of the product disclosure statement is available at generatekiwisaver.co.nz. The issuer of the scheme is Generate Investment Management Limited, and of course, past performance does not guarantee future returns.
You've got to go all in. Yeah, and very tough, because I guess where the hiccup comes nowadays is, what exactly does that mean?
Yeah.
Because all in means two very different things in terms of this generation now and my generation earlier. All in meant, what it used to mean for me and my friends, is you put your heart and soul into being a professional sportsman after work obligations, after you've fulfilled all your obligations to provide for your family.
I see.
That's what it used to mean.
Yeah. It's changed.
It's changed big time.
Yeah.
Now, all in terms of that principle, that's not a priority anymore. now young kids, they literally just throw themselves in, and they have no care in the world at all about where the next meal is going to come from or how they're going to support their professional fighting career. They literally just jump in all in. I'm talking about literally, like I'm talking about guys. I've had kids from Japan turn up at the gym with just their suitcase.
Wow.
And $2,000 in their back pocket. Hey, I'm here in New Zealand, want to learn from the best, have $2,000, have nothing else, nowhere to stay, nothing.
Far out.
You know, like that's unfathomable to me. You know? I come from a different generation where you just couldn't do that. But they're getting, I don't know if it, like, and I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. I don't really philosophically dive into it that deep. But yeah, it's just from my perspective, it's a little bit unfathomable. Like, but they're getting a lot of messages, these young kids. They're getting a lot of messages. I don't know if all the messages are positive or negative, and I don't know if they're being led down the right road. But for one or other reason, they're being told, you have to do it. You have to fly across the world. You have to give up everything. The only way to achieve something is you have to put absolutely everything that you've got into it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm just not sure on whether that message is the right one.
Well, I guess on some of those examples of the people who have done that or walked into the gym and sort of staked everything, how do you see it going? Like, do they end up better in their life? Or do they end up sort of getting, finding out that actually I thought maybe this was the place to put all my chips into, but maybe I don't have what it takes?
This is the deep question. It's a deep philosophical question. Because how I'd answer that question is you can spend a lifetime doing what I do and traveling the world and fighting, and you can come out of it in terms of money or even just inanimate objects, well, no matter what it is, with nothing of that nature.
Yeah.
But you can have a wealth of experiences and life and living life, and you can meet some of the greatest people you've ever met in this industry. Some of the greatest people I've ever met, I've met through this industry. And some of the greatest experiences I've had around the world have been in this industry. This is like an industry that is like on the cutting edge of everything. And it's a cross section. It crosses everything. Like celebrities want to get involved with this. Car companies want to get involved with this. Communication companies, you name it. Everybody wants to have something to do with fighting.
Yeah.
Everybody's attracted to it. So it opens up heaps of doors. You meet heaps of wonderful people. But at the end of it, if the way that you calculate whether you've got something out of the sport or out of your lifetime of work is financial gain, or how many cool things you have around you, cool flashy things, then there's the majority of the world is going to come out of this experience with nothing.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to necessarily reside to the fact that they're coming away with absolutely nothing, because I think they're coming away with the most important wealth of all, and that's life. They've lived a life worth living.
Yeah.
Even though they might not be able to financially support themselves at the end of it.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it. If you're lucky enough to be a Dan Hooker or Israel Adesanya or whatever, then you're going to have financial success, and you're going to have a wealth of life experience as well.
Yeah.
But the fact is that that's just they're the 1% of the 1%.
And I suppose, something that I learnt about your space some time ago is that you learn a lot about dropping your ego, about being humbled by people who are smaller than you, about discipline, repetition, consistency, and a lot of people who are maybe not the 1% or even the 1% of the 1%, they can take those skills and you can plug them into just about anything else in life and then be successful at other things. And people often attribute their success, whether it be in business or whatnot, to what they've learned through being in an environment like that you provide people.
Yes. And as well as that, I feel like the sport breeds just a wonderful human being. Just a wonderful human being who's very sympathetic, who's very emotional, who's very sensitive towards other people's strengths and weaknesses. It just breeds a good human being by the time you come through your fighting career. And that comes out of just, I guess, you're voluntarily putting yourself through adversity. That's one of the big keys to why the sport of fighting is able to produce a whole lot of really good people that I really get along with. Some of the best people I've ever met are from this industry. It's because they have been through more voluntary adversity than just your average person. Because let's face it, in today's modern times, everything is geared towards making things easier. So we don't have to go through any adversity at all, whether it's going to sleep, going to bed, waking up, cooking food. Everything we do in our life is designed to make it easier. Yeah. And then you've got a select group of people in society that decide, you know what, man, I need something tougher in my life. I need some adversity to show me something about myself and build myself into something. Because the only way that I can truly find out who I am and find out things about me that are locked in deep inside me is to put myself through a bit of adversity. And what's the ultimate adversity you can put you through in terms of me? I might be biased. And it's going to seem barbaric, but it's locking yourself in a cage and staring at another human being and say, look, for a set amount of time, we're just going to go at it. We're going to challenge each other physically and mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And we're going to just lock ourselves in there and we're going to have a crack. We're going to have a crack at each other. And at the end of that, we're going to have a connection with each other that no other experience can provide. Yeah. And you're going to be forever intertwined with that person in a very special way. Only fighting can do that, in my opinion.
And so on that, like, what is it that's attracting so many people to fighting? Because you could almost argue that this is now a society where it could look down upon fighting, but if anything, it's skyrocketing. And boxing is popular, UFC is cranking, MMA. You would know more about it than I, but what is dragging people into it to go? Give me some of that voluntary adversity.
Yeah. Well, man, today what's attracting people to it is something very different to what attracted people back when I was started. But today it's the pizzazz, it's the social media. It's Conor McGregor pulling up on his Lamborghini and the Israel Adesanya like in his McLaren and the private jet and, they're walking out in front of, tens of thousands of people and fans and autographs and you name it. It's all of that. It's all the stuff that's up front in your face in front of social media and throughout the media. That's what's attracting people to the sport and making it mainstream. Underneath all that, there's a whole lot of infrastructure that's working hard to capitalize on that, of course.
Yeah.
So that's helped. As it doesn't matter how the sport's getting popular, using these modern means of media, as long as the infrastructure underneath is ready to take advantage of it, then that's a good thing. You can attract people to the sport and keep people in the sport. What I think happens is a lot of people get attracted for those reasons, but then most of them find out that those things that they originally got attracted to the sport are very far-fetched, and very hard to achieve. But I think the sport grabs them in a way that they understand that although those things are very hard to achieve, you have a shot. And if you don't achieve that, it's better to just give it a go, have a go trying, And they still feel like they're going to get great benefit out of it, even though it might not be the Lamborghini or the McLaren or the private jet. And that's what keeps them in the sport. So what does it matter to me, from my point of view? As long as they get in the sport.
I think as a young fella, I went and did a little bit of karate and didn't stick with it. But I think what attracted me, or what I did like about it and still think about, is even just learning to protect yourself. Because very likely at some stage in your life, like even just knowing that you can do that. So, my space now will talk about, wouldn't it be great to learn, to know how to make a bit more money, should you need to. You might not want to, but there might be a time where you go, oh, we've had this emergency, instead of relying on debt, we can, go out to the market and add skills and add value to make money. And it's a bit like knowing how to look after yourself, should you need to. You almost like hope you don't need to, but even once you know more that you can, you probably then feel more in control. Does that still pull people in, things like that?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And you, to be honest, you're touching on a point there. You're touching on a point. You're touching on two things. We're touching on two different things, but I think are absolutely essential for everybody to learn. You've got to know how money works, because we need money to survive, and we need money to love and nurture our loved ones and our family. So you've got to know how that works. And if you're armed with that knowledge, it's going to help you, right? Especially if you get yourself into trouble. In the same manner, I think, unless you're living in a bubble, you also have to have a basic knowledge of how to defend yourself. But for me, it's not even about myself. I would be uncomfortable if I didn't know the basics of how to defend my family. Not sure if you have kids.
No.
Yes. And when you have kids, your perspective on the world will definitely change.
I bet.
You would have heard that cliche saying 1,000 times. But you do realize that when you have kids, that you are the one responsible for them.
Yeah.
And you're not only responsible for everything that comes with those kids, their education, their mentality, their emotions, but there is a part of you that's responsible for protecting them. That's just an instinct that we have as a man. And that's when you realize that it is important to learn this stuff. And you hope you're never going to have to do that. And most men are smart, and they're going to mitigate the danger, and they're good at diplomacy, and they're going to be able to get themselves out of situations with their mouth. But every man knows that they have the responsibility of protecting their family.
Yeah.
And so it's just awesome to have that knowledge, and to know that you know the basics of being able to protect yourself and defend yourself.
Do you think, there's a lot of chat at the moment about financial literacy in schools, but arguably that at a young age, all of us should be learning more about this?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely you should.
Not just money, I mean, like looking after yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was one of the biggest stresses of my life was when my kids went to high school. Yeah, in primary school and kindergarten, these sort of things. Kids aren't fighting and bullying each other at that stage, for the most part. But we all know that when you get to high school and the kids start to get a bit older, a bit more rougher, and kids get a bit more sensitive, kids get a bit more nasty, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah.
We all know that things happen. And one of the biggest stresses in my life was, oh man, what if one of my kids gets into a playground brawl? And I don't want them to go and beat someone up, but I want them to be able to defend themselves. And I knew at that stage that they didn't know how to defend myself. And that's because I never forced them into the martial arts or the sports that I was in. And I would have felt so much better if they knew the basics of how to defend themselves. Yeah, or get away from situations. So I don't know. I think it's, like I said, financial literacy is very important, like you said. But I think also knowing how to defend yourself is very, very important to us as we go into adulthood as well.
So for the parents listening, and we don't want them to send in hundreds of kids to CKB, you won't be able to sleep, mate. We have to give you 4 of those every hour.
I stay away from the kids, mate. You got to be 13 or 14 up for me to train you. I tried to do little kids once. No, it's
not for you. But what would you suggest for people who are starting to worry about their kids or think, you know what, I need to, get them some of these skills? Where's a good starting point for them?
I would suggest one of the biggest secrets in New Zealand society right now is that we all talk about CKB, 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 but guess what? There's hundreds of CKBs. They don't have the notoriety and the fame that CKB has, but in every suburb in Auckland and every city, town, up and down this country, there's martial artists, young and old, who have facilities and gyms all over the place. Nowadays we have the internet. You look up on the internet, social media, you'll be able to find them all. Go into one of those. One of the biggest secrets in New Zealand at the moment is that we have this wonderful martial arts infrastructure. We have all these gyms teaching all these martial arts, from jiu-jitsu to taekwondo to kickboxing to MMA, and it's untouched. It's untouched. It's starting to get discovered now, but they're all out there, and whether it be the North Shore, they're out there in every suburb, and they're really, really accessible. And with the new generation now, those gyms are starting to fill up a lot more than it's ever been filled up before, which is good to see. But there still could be more parents bringing their kids in and having fun and learning martial arts. Having fun and learning. It's it's not about kicking someone's head in, right? No, absolutely. No. So I was going to ask you, I feel like you've kind of answered it there, but I'll ask it this, how important are gyms for all these communities around the country? Well, again, I think the martial arts community in New Zealand needs to be highlighted a little bit more, because it's been around for years and it's been pushed somewhat to the underground for many years because of I don't know, I guess the establishment's view on the sport. But now that the sport is going mainstream and it's people are educated and they know about the sport, they know that it's governed by rules and it's very safe and it has doctors, medics, you name it, judges, referees, all of that. Now it's gaining a little bit of popularity in the mainstream, right? And I just think that New Zealand could do a better job at kind of looking into that community and attracting people to that community, because I know that there's some wonderful, wonderful people looking after some gyms, looking after youth, looking after young men, and it's an essential part of the community. It's one of the only spaces that I've been to where I can have some of the wealthiest business owners in the whole country training, and I can, right next to them, have guys that are trying to get their life back on track, who've got an ankle bracelet out, who have just come out of prison. Now that might seem like a scary environment to some people, but that's the reality of the society that we live in. We don't all come from the same background. We don't all come from the same privileged background. We all come from different backgrounds. But when you come to a gym, what you do have in common is just one central focus: trying to make yourself just a little bit better than when you walked in. Yeah. And so you have all that, you have that commonality, and then all those other things fall away. You can't, whether you're one of the top barristers in Auckland, next to you is, someone that you might have, put in jail. Yeah. For that moment that they're working out, it doesn't matter. Yeah. You're just seeking the same goal, and that's just to be a little bit better, a little bit fitter, learn a technique, be just a little bit better than when you came in. And that's all that matters. You walk in and you walk out, and you're a better person. When you watch people training, do you ever stop and reflect on that, or are you too in the moment doing the coaching? I reflect on that all the time. Yeah. When I go to my gym, sometimes my gym's got 100 people in a class, and what I'm very proud of is that in that class is everybody. That's one of the things. It's a proper cross section of society. You got people from the age of 60 down to the age of 13. You've got people who, standing with a lollipop, and you got people that were just earlier in the day, like, doing implants on people's teeth and stuff. Like, you've got the whole cross-section of society. None of them know what each other's doing because it doesn't matter. All you're there to do is be a martial artist for that hour and learn about, how to defend yourself, how to punch, how to pull away. And that's what's so wonderful about it. Yeah.
So I'll take you back then to, was it 2007 you started the gym with your business partner?
I'm gonna go with that, brother.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with that.
I think it was 2007, if I've done my research right.
Maybe 2007 or 2006. That's what I remember. I can't remember, yeah.
Have you had times where you've had, you've housed people effectively in the gym because they've had nowhere else to go?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. The gyms and that infrastructure that I talked about, there's another important thing that they do. And this speaks to some other areas of society that perhaps need to be a little bit shored up, that are kind of beyond my scope. I don't understand them and stuff. But gyms take care of a lot of people that have nowhere else to turn. They have nowhere else to turn. There's nowhere else for them to go. And a lot of those people, there's two places at that point in their life where they go. What those people are looking for is a community. And the two places they can go, predominantly now, they can go towards a gym and a fight team and a good community, or they can go towards a gang. And everybody knows that we would rather have them go towards a gym and a fight community and a fight team than towards a gang. Unfortunately, a lot of those young men, they don't walk into a gym and they don't find that community that they want because they never have that experience. They don't know how to access it. And they go the other way. And they put a patch on their back and they find the community that they want to, but not necessarily the most positive community that they could have fallen into. It's taking care of those people in society that feel like they don't have anywhere to go, That's what gyms are. That's what gyms are doing up and down the country. Not only are they looking after the people that are doing very good in their life, the property investors, the business owners, but they're also taking care of that section of society who have been, they've been at the bottom of the bottom. They've been through it all. They've been state care, you name it, and they're coming out and they're like, "What am I going to do? I need some positive role models. I need a community around me. Where can I go?" Gyms up and down the country are doing that, taking young men that could easily go towards a place that we don't want them to go, and they're housing them in. It's a very common story. You'll hear a lot of fighters saying, fighting saved my life. And what they mean is exactly what we're talking about. What they mean is that the alternative at that stage in their life, their alternative was looking bad. And they've found fighting, and then they've found a community, they've found good role models, and they've changed the way that they ethically live. That's a part of that infrastructure that I talked about that we're doing, which is not well known, but should be celebrated a bit more.
Yeah. And I think, on the gang side, it's much like you're talking about before, it's the pizzazz with social media for a lot of these people now, right? Like, okay, the way of living, the image of it, the motorbike, the lawless, etc. And, arguably people are just still looking for the same thing, community, belonging, and a reason to be, contributing towards something, right?
100%. And
outcomes are very different though.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't care what attracts you to the sport, because I know when you get in the sport, it's going to be positive. Even if you don't get those things when you get in there, I know they're very hard to get. You're probably not going to achieve them, but I know you're going to achieve a whole lot of other things that are very noteworthy and worth it. The gang's the other side of it, man. They see those things. Those gangs, they advertise those things now, the cars, the Lamborghinis and stuff. But when you get in a gang and to achieve those things, things you've got to do is not the same as the things that we have to do.
Yeah.
So I'm by no means, and I am putting, fighting and stuff, against gangs and but
you're creating pathways with the gym.
I'm creating pathways, alternatives where young men can go. And I know that that's happening literally as we speak now, up and down the country. There are young men that are at a crossroads that choose to go to a gym. They could have chosen. And definitely, some choose the other way. I've had promising young men that are fighters go down the other road. And it's unfortunate. Every single one of those men, I will never forget, and I'll always remember. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because I've seen stories through my upbringing of like boxing gyms and how critical they've been in somebody's life. But often what we see on TV is the top competitors, right, and think that that's what it's about, but they miss that under story, which is actually the infrastructure that creates a better version of somebody for society.
100.
Which is so important, for the country.
100%. That's the hidden part that this country doesn't see about all these gyms, whether it be boxing or kickboxing or jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of young men, and it's having a real positive impact on their life.
Does the sport and that infrastructure nationwide, does it need more funding?
It's self-funded, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funded internally by ourselves.
Yeah.
Most. I can't use myself as an example because I've been fortunate. But I would say, I'm going to say 99% of the gyms are struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if people...
With commercial rent and stuff now and the way things are and the costs and just people's disposable income being so small now, especially in these times, it's real tough to attract people in there and get all your bills paid and stuff. But... I hope one day that, and it's already happening to be fair, is that the sport is just more mainstream and it can be granted the same sort of funding from taxpayer money that rugby and netball and cricket and all these other sports get. I think it'll head there one day, as the powers that be.
Yeah, recognise it.
And the powers that be, let's be honest, as the powers that be become younger and younger and younger, as an older generation who don't really understand the sport, kind of look a little bit funny out at the sport, as they move on and move out, and the newer, younger generation that grew up with the sport become the administrators of the sport and the bureaucracy, as they become the bureaucracy, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
That's going to be way more acceptable, right? And it's going to open doors when that younger generation of bureaucrats get up there.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to understand that, that infrastructure, like we've just talked about, where then you might find some people listening to this at some stage in their life might go, well, maybe I could or should donate a bit to the local club or gym or facility, to facilitate more good outcomes.
No, absolutely. And it is literally happening today. Like today, the reach of MMA is massive. And with what the boys in my gym have done, which is really put it on the world stage and put it on the mainstream, it's crazy nowadays. Everybody in this country knows what those boys in my gym have achieved on the international stage, and everybody knows who they are. That was unfathomable when I started the sport. Yeah. We had fighters that were at the level that they are, and no one knew who they were. But they were on the world stage, and they were some of the best fighters in the world 15, 20 years ago, and no one knew who they were.
Wow.
Who now, you're looking at Dan Hogger, Kai Kara Francis, right? They can't walk down a street without someone stopping them for a photo.
Do you ever reflect on the what you've done for the brand of New Zealand and exporting New Zealand to the world for people to even understand, and yourself and those athletes, where people know about New Zealand, historically, but maybe they'd never heard of it.
Yeah, 100%. I don't reflect. I don't think about it much. But I do understand that now you will say there's a certain demographic of people around the world, and you say New Zealand, and they go Israel Adesanya, Dan Hooker. They don't go Sir Edmund Hillary,
yes,
Mount Everest, All Blacks, You know, they don't say that anymore. Their immediate thought is like, that's the country that Israel Adesanya comes from. That's the country that City Kickboxing Force. I've seen that firsthand.
How does that make you feel?
Like I said, I don't really think about it much, but it's cool. What I like about it is what I like about it is we've worked hard to help the sport and get far in the sport, and it's being recognised.
Well, 20 years doing 14-hour days, mate. I'd say you deserve a bit of bloody success. Yeah. What brought you to start the gym? Like, how did that come about?
Just selfish reasons, mate. Yeah, selfish reasons. I started fighting, and I was just doing what most fighters do, and I was doing odd jobs and trying to just scrape together and, you know, try and make a living. And I was like, man, wouldn't it be advantageous for me to just open a gym and be working in the industry that I'm trying to be successful in? That's got to be good for me, right? So I was like, that's far better than working at on the door in a nightclub and stuff. I'll be actually working in the industry that I'm trying to be successful in, and surely those two go hand in hand. And that was the original plan. The original plan was just my first gym was right in the middle on Queen Street, and I was like, let's train the office workers and the office ladies, and let's get them in and let's get them out, and then we do our training.
Nice.
Yeah, smart, but it didn't work like that. I didn't even know what a lease was. I didn't know what tax obligations were. I didn't know that there were bills that had to be paid, and all of that had to be paid before you could pay yourself. I didn't know all that, you see. And so it quickly became apparent that I would have to put a lot of work into owning a small business in New Zealand, in the middle of Queen Street. That I'd have to put a lot of work in to make sure that I didn't start to go backwards.
I think there was a GFC around then too, 2008.
Mate. Yeah, absolutely. So I entered into some pretty meager years of just trying to pay the bills and trying to live my life. And like I said, my business didn't make money for many, many, many years, but it did not matter because I was doing what I wanted to do in life, and I was happy doing it. So even though I wasn't the greatest businessman and the business wasn't turning over money, I loved to do what I did every day. Most people, I think I heard the statistic that when a business doesn't make money within the first 3 years, they normally 70% of them fall over. Mine didn't make money for way longer than that. You're talking close to a decade. It probably never made money, but I just stayed in it. I stayed in it because I loved it, and I didn't care that I wasn't making any money. I was making enough to take care of myself and my family. I wasn't making anything above that. But I stayed in it, and then I was fortunate. I managed to turn it around.
So on turning it around, before turning it around actually, did you believe that the money could come if you just stayed with it? Or was it more, I'm not too phased about that, never wanted for much, I love what I get to do, as long as we can pay all the bills and keep the ID off our back, happy days, we play on?
I'm going to say in the early stages of that gym, there was probably, a bit of delusion around the financial success that we could achieve. But as we got a few years into it, it became pretty apparent that it was going to be a hard slog. And then my delusions of grandeur kind of dissipated, and I just like, man, at the very least, I'm doing what I want to do in my life. I'm content. And so that I didn't have any, there wasn't any big financial goal. I've just got to work harder. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I just did that naturally.
Yeah. Is part of that, do you think, that tenacity and that resilience that you're learning through fighting as well, and then you take it into business and you stay in it?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Going through the adversity of fighting, and that it puts you in a position where it's hard for things in everyday life to faze you. No matter what it is. It's something that I don't have to remind myself too many times, but every now and then I have to remind myself, I'll be in front of them. I might be talking to, I might have a big corporate talk that I'm doing, and there's, 2,000 people there from a big company, 2,000 workers, yeah? And I can get nervous. I can be like, man, I talk on a lot of interviews and I do a lot of podcasts, but this is 2,000 actual people in front of you.
Yeah.
It's different to like a camera in front of you, and I can get nervous. But then for me, I'm like, well, you can get nervous, but you did also jump in a cage and lock the door and 48 times and look across the cage, and you went to battle with another man 48 times. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's not for everybody. It just puts those things in perspective.
Yeah.
It's like, I think about that, then I'm like, oh, yeah, I can talk to 2,000 people then, eh? So, like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't work like that with everybody. They don't get that power. But for me, it's given me that power. It's given me the confidence that I can deal with stuff.
Yeah. Is that a bit of self-coaching, do you think? Like, a lot of people probably would just stay in that anxious rabbit hole until they've finished the speech and go, oh, that actually wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it's a bit of self-coaching for sure. But the self-coaching comes from, you have to self-coach yourself in fighting. Yeah. When you're fighting, when you're walking out there, every bone, every molecule in your body is telling you, don't do it. Everything, every hair on your body is saying, do not do that. You have to go that way, and everything's telling you to go the other way. Mm-hmm. I've said this before, in the media. I said, every time I fought, I kind of like stared at myself, not literally, but I was like, why? Why am I going out there? This is so stupid. Mm. But then I smiled and I went out there because I just knew what I was getting out of it. I knew the outcome was greater than whatever I was going through at that time.
Nice.
So I did it every time. Yeah.
Did you have to do some work to find that why and really understand that? And do you think that's something a lot of us don't do these days? We just drift?
Yeah, no, I had to do that every time I fought. Every fight I prepared for, I had to do that. I had to go through the same philosophical questions that I went through. Why am I doing this? Do I want to do this again? Who am I facing this time? Man, this guy might be way better than me, not as good as me. Doesn't matter if he's better than me. I've just got to, how do I know he's better than me? I'd rather die trying than just give up now. Like, you go through the whole gambit. You go through the whole gambit of adversity that it would take a normal person to go through in a lifetime. You go through it in 8 weeks. But you do it 48 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a good way to describe it for me. So I'm getting the knowledge that it would normally take a person a lifetime to accumulate. I'm getting that 48 times in my lifetime. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I've met some of the greatest people I've ever met in this industry. It's because they've just been through stuff. They've put themselves through the ringer, and they've come out the other side. Do you know what I mean?
I think I've heard you say that self-belief is the biggest thing that you can take into a fight. Is that loosely accurate, paraphrasing you?
No, 100%. But you can't, self-belief.
I can't just roll up and fight.
You can't just roll up and have self-belief. I never had self-belief when I started fighting. I never had self-belief at all. That's one of the falsehoods that people think, that you just believe in yourself. It's like, yeah, but how do you believe in yourself? For me to believe in myself, I had to learn how to believe in myself.
How do we do that?
Yeah, how do you do that? And I did it through my experiences. You learn to do it gradually, and the more adversity you put you through, the more times that your self-belief fails you, the more times you realize, I didn't believe in myself completely. The stronger and better you get at that concept of self-belief. Yeah.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Yes. But you have to go through it.
Yeah,
it's something that's learned. It's not something that just naturally sits there and you get it.
Yeah.
It's the only way. You got to learn to believe in yourself, and you've got to do it by putting yourself through adversity And that's why fighting is one of the perfect examples of things you can do in your life, where you can learn how to believe in yourself properly and who you are.
One thing that I learned was that if you want to build self-belief, do the things you say you'll do. Because when you don't, then you erode it.
Yeah, absolutely.
As an example, people will say to me, "Oh, I'll do this by this date," and then they don't. And I think, why would you say that?
Yeah.
Because you're just basically building a narrative for the outside world and even yourself that you don't stick to your word. So then how can I believe you going forward? And then how can you, so then if other people are going to doubt you.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you're in an environment like the fight sport, that can really work against you. If you don't follow through on the little things that you're going to say that you're going to do. Get up at 5 a.m. every day to do this run, make sure you make training at night. Make sure you eat this food so you make the correct weight. All these little things that you can skip out on. You have to back yourself to do those things and believe in yourself. Otherwise, accumulatively, if you don't do those things, it's going to end up bad for you. Yeah.
So what do you do when you see an athlete that's talented and you can see it?
Yeah.
But you can see that they're lacking self-belief?
Yeah. So my teachings come through actions, to be fair. Like, I'm not like I will, when required, I will sit someone down and I'll have a chat with them. But I think you have to put that person through tough situations, and you have to push him in the right direction of self-discovery. What I mean by that. So if you've got for instance, a fighter that is having real trouble dealing with someone who's quite aggressive and comes forward a lot, yeah? Well, what you do is you exclusively put that person in their sparring rounds or their practice rounds with someone who's exclusively comes forward and gets aggressive a lot. And what happens is they fail. They fail most of the time because it's their one weakness, someone that's really aggressive and keeps moving forward. But what I try to do is I try to pick out from that sparring session just one positive moment. And you'll be surprised. If you can pick out one positive moment and you can point that out to that fighter, you'll be surprised what that does in their mind. Because they take that positive moment and all they have to do is times it by 2. So the next sparring they do, if they can relive that positive moment twice, then they've made an improvement in their head, a tangible improvement that they know that they've done. And then obviously I can see it. Now that you have 2, you get 4. And before you know it, they're in this habit of rewarding themselves because they know they've got success. They know that I can see them getting success, and they start to reward themselves. And that's how I get them. That's an example of how I get people, to kind of train self-belief themselves. Nice. Yeah.
And when you say you can see it, you mean that you can see that they're listening to the coaching, right?
I can see that they're listening to the coaching, and I can mainly see that because their actions are reflecting what I want them to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. And so what makes a good student?
Man, I say the same thing. Like what mainly makes a good student is first and foremost just the ability to show up. Yeah. Yeah. That's the most important thing. Is just show up.
I hate it how as we get older, all the advice becomes more and more basic, but makes more and more sense. Have you noticed that?
No, because like there's so many aspects that make a good student. There's so many aspects, and I have so many good students, but most of them 99% of them started out as bad students. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the environment that I put them in taught them how to be good students. But that environment, you can't activate that environment until you do the minimum amount on your end, which is show up.
Yeah.
then we will teach you, the sport will teach you, the coaches will teach you, the team environment will teach you, the leaders in the team will teach you, even the young members in the team that only just arrived, they will all come together and they will teach you how to become a good student of the sport. But you have to, in the very least, just show up, because no one's going to, there's no shuttle service at my gym that goes and picks you up from your house and gets you to the gym. Yeah.
Well, I
so that's kind of always my number one bit of advice.
Yeah. Well, you're a good reflection of that, doing that yourself in your career, right? Just showing up, 4:30, hang up, let's go, we go again.
100%, brother. Yeah.
What's the aura of the gym like when Israel Adesanya rolls through or Dan Hook is in? Like, I'd imagine if I was in that environment, I'd be like, oh shit, man, I need to, like, take this a bit more seriously as well. Do they have that effect?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That is why the gym has continued success. Is because it's an amazing thing. When you've got young fighters, you can, it's amazing. You can have a whole lot of young fighters like Israel Adesanya, exactly like Israel Adesanya. And they'll operate at a high level for years and years and years, and they won't achieve anywhere near what Israel did. And they simply won't do that because there's no example, there's no real life example for them of someone else achieving it. Yeah.
That's powerful.
And that's where we've been lucky, is because we've had one example, then two, then three, then four. Now there's a whole host of guys that have made it to the top of the world, but all you need is one person to show you that, man, I do everything that person does. I do everything that they do. I do some things better than him. And he's made it to the top of the world. It's amazing what that can do for someone. Like, I've seen that. I've literally seen just that work so many times. Yeah.
I did a podcast recently with a bloke, and he started in a company like early on, and he's cashed out, and he's now trying to find like our next $10 billion business startups in New Zealand, and he's been working on that for the last half a decade to try and find those people. But basically the same thing is that he's like, we are capable of a lot more than we realise here in New Zealand, even on a global business scale. We just need some more role models, and Aussie have had some. If we can just get a few more in New Zealand, then people coming through go, oh, well, they did it, I can do it too. And it is actually just so simple, but role modeling is so important, right?
It's amazing, right? It's amazing how you don't truly believe that you can achieve something until a peer or someone that you can relate to has done it, and then the light bulb goes off. I feel like it's just the extra 1 or 2% that a lot of people need.
Yeah.
They need that real world example of someone around them who's achieved it, that they can compare themselves to. And then they're like, man, yeah, I can do it. And I know that for our gym, that's how we've had a lot of success.
Well, you personally, I heard you say that this has gone better than expected, but you'd be lying if you said that you didn't expect it, to paraphrase.
Yeah.
So you obviously had some pretty incredible belief in yourself that if you stayed on this path, all of this good shit would happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think, but not to the magnitude. I think I would probably fair to say, not to the magnitude of what's happened.
It's gotten pretty big now.
Yeah. I didn't think that I would ever train a UFC world champion, for instance, and then have a big role to play in a second UFC champion, Alex Volkanovski, who's the young Australian man. I didn't think I would have that sort of success, and then get multiple guys into the top 10, top 15, top 5 in the world. I thought we'd produce some fighters and they'd be able to get to the UFC and they'd be okay. I just didn't think that we'd produce a group of guys that would be elite and would just hold their place in the top 10, top 15 of the world for like the last 5 or 6 years. They're a part of the landscape. When you think of UFC, you think of some of these boys, they're like integral to the UFC now. The Israels, the Alex Volkanovskis, Dan Hooker, Kara France, Carlos Olberg. They're just, when you think of UFC, you can't escape those guys. Some of those guys' pictures are on the UFC PI, on the walls of the UFC PI, big giant pictures of them. I never thought we would achieve that. Coming from where we came from, you know, relative newcomers to the sport, to getting to that level. I thought I might have a hand in that. Like I might, that maybe a few generations after me, there'd be a big influx of fighters and they would get in the UFC. But it just came real quick, which was cool.
Was there a part of that journey where you could see it going that way and you had to almost bring your own belief in yourself up to the reality of what was going to happen? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you have to do some work on yourself in that space?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's just like fighting. Just like when I was a fighter, I had to convince myself that I had done the work and that I was good enough, and that I could believe in myself, and I could back myself, and I was going to be okay. It was the same thing. When you're taking guys to the highest level, of the sport, and you're walking out in front of 60,000 people, and some of them want you. Some of them don't want you there. It can knock your confidence. Yeah, it can knock your confidence if you don't have if your I's dotted and your T's crossed, it can really knock you back. So you've got to constantly be reassuring yourself that you're good enough to be there and that you've done the work. You've done the work that needs to be done to make you successful at that level.
Yeah.
And so, I always do that. Even nowadays, me and my coach's work and my team's work is proven at the top. We don't have to do so much of the whole self-belief thing anymore. We know that we've got a successful formula. But that's not to say that every now and then we have to still believe in myself, I still have to, Israel still challenges me, you know what I mean? Israel's an older, aging athlete now, and we have to adjust the way that he trains, and we have to adjust his strategy, and I have to have belief in myself and my team that we're doing the right thing for him. He's not the athlete that we were training 5 years ago. So again, your self-doubt comes in. Are we doing the right thing? Have we put down the right strategy? Have we trained Israel the right way now that he's 35 and he's not 30 anymore? And we have to believe in ourselves. So you still, after all these years, you still get moments of self-doubt where you have to reassure yourself and pull that self-belief in and elevate it.
I think that'd be reassuring for a lot of people to hear whatever stage they're at in their journey, because I do think that a lot of people look at successful individuals and just think, they've ticked all the boxes. Yeah. It must just be cruisy for them now.
Yeah.
Not the case. We're never finished, right?
No way, mate. Yeah. No way.
And what about then the reverse of that? What about the athletes coming into the gym and they're getting over their skis a little bit, and you kind of think, we need to, how do you balance the bravado with then the boldness that they have to be able to sell the fight as well?
Yeah. Very difficult. It's a very difficult thing.
I bet.
Yeah, very difficult thing. At the very, very top, the UFC guys, they become very good at selling a fight. It's part and parcel of what they have to do. They're making a lot of money, so there's an expectation that they know how to sell a fight. And then for the guys learning that, it's tough. It's tough because they're not in an environment where they necessarily have to sell a fight. No one's buying your fight. It's tough for them to learn. I would say this. I would say that at the lower levels of fight sports, the focus should be more on honor and respecting the sport and respecting the teams that are involved and respecting the industry and going into that sport, going into the sport in a respectful manner. And the reason you have to do that is because you haven't hit the big time. You don't have to sell a fight. At the moment, just your mum and dad are buying tickets to your fight. Okay, you're not generating a massive amount of income. You have to approach the sport in the right type of way. And you can't be all braggadocious and like overconfident and be doing all the stuff that the UFC guys are doing, you don't understand that they're doing that for a very particular reason. And that is because their income is dependent on how much they sell the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your income is not dependent on that. So you have to learn some of the ways that the sport operates in terms of the etiquette that you should use, and the etiquette that you should, be under before you start all the bravado and the braggadocious behavior that goes on nowadays. I think young guys get that all mixed up. They go into their social media mode and they're Israel Adesanya, but there's just no reason to do that.
I get the feeling that they might get taught a lesson pretty quickly inside CKB.
Yeah. Look, my fighters overstep the line sometimes. You know what I mean? And I have to pull them back into line. But I come from, I definitely come from a place where, when the time is right, you need to sell the fight. But up until that time, you're doing the sport a disservice if you're talking about someone in that manner, or you're messaging someone, or you're trying to get in their head. You don't need to do that. You're just a bottom feeder. You're just learning the sport.
Yeah.
You've got to earn the right to do that. And to earn the right to do that, you've got to be in a position where you have to sell the sport, and that can directly affect your income.
Yeah.
It's a problem in the sport if you haven't picked up from me.
Yeah, I feel like we could unpack that for another half hour.
Yeah, for sure.
So as your journey has exploded, have you had, well, it's a stupid question because I know the answer would be yes, but any stories you could maybe share with us where, I was going to ask pinch yourself moments of, holy shit, from where you came from and what was, normal and putting food on the table or representing your parents and stuff like that, to no doubt probably kicking it with some celebrities and bottle service or whatever the extravagance could be in your space. Do you sort of sit there and go, wow, not so much how did I get here, but what is this?
Yeah. Not so much anymore. There's only so much of that stuff you can do.
Yeah.
There's only so many celebrities that you can hang out with, and Saudi sheiks and owners of Facebook, and you can only do that so much and before you get sick of it. For me nowadays, I don't care too much about that, but there's definitely some moments, I remember having a 10-minute conversation with Mark Zuckerberg, backstage when we cornered Alex Volkanovski together. That's pretty surreal. You're like, wow, this is the guy who owns Facebook, one of the richest people in the world. I'm just having a normal conversation. He's a fan of fighting. I'm a fan of fighting. So we're just having a normal conversation about fighting. We'd be in a palace with some Saudi princes, and that's pretty surreal as well. These are some of the richest men in the world. But also, in America, sometimes I'll come out of a hotel and there's 15 people there waiting, and I'm just a coach. I shouldn't be garnering any attention. Yeah. But they all want an autograph and a photo from me. And we're talking young kids. Yeah. And that's a humbling experience too. That's cool as well. I'm like, man, these kids waited out here and they want to, in the cold, and they want to autograph with me, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you definitely get pinch me moments, like that. What else is there? Nowadays, like I said, I'm just a coach, but if I go out to a mall or something, there's going to be always someone that asks for a photo, and I'm not one of the fighters. So I mean that's pretty cool. I love that. I don't particularly love being bothered all the time, but I love that the sport's been elevated to a level where I'm getting recognized. For me, that's a signal that the sport is right up there. It's right up there. Because I'm no one. I'm just a guy that turns up to the gym, for 14 hours, puts my head down and works. That's all I am. I'm just a piece of shit like every other piece of shit out there. You know what I mean? But people are recognizing my hard work, and and that's a reflection of how they recognise the sport.
Yeah.
The sport is going to another level, which I think is really cool for me to see it elevated to another level within my lifetime.
Yeah, especially given that when you got into this sport, you've then helped completely change the trajectory and the perception, the image, you've gone through it and then coached in it, and then now you're basically like marketing it by being good at what you do.
Mate, I wasn't like at the very start of the sport. There were many generations before me, but when I started, I remember there was a fight in a bar in Otahu called Sheepy's Bar, and they put black cellophane on the windows to hide the fact that we were fighting in the back of a bar.
Yeah.
So they closed the doors, put black cellophane over the windows, and we had a fight in there. Like there was a dozen of us and a dozen opponents, and we had a fight night, and that's where we started. Like now every weekend in Auckland and up and down the country, there's young men and women competing in MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai, you name it. Every single weekend there's an event somewhere in Auckland and all the other major cities and towns up and down the country. That just didn't happen.
The cool thing too is, like, I often reflect about on this because, being an accountant and in the business world, I look at and see this stuff. But, sometimes I'll go into a bar and it's cranking, on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Because people are wanting to watch the UFC and they've got something to look forward to on their Sunday. Yeah. And like that's economic activity for that bar. They put it on. It's always loud, and it's like, well, you're either in here to watch it or fuck off and find somewhere else to, have a beer or whatever. And not that long ago, a bar on a Sunday would normally be dribs and drabs and whatnot, but they can potentially do like a full day's trading because of what's happened in your space with the sport.
100%. The New Zealand market for MMA is one of the most. It's a huge market. At one stage, per capita, we bought the most UFC pay-per-views.
Wow.
New Zealand bought the most UFCs per capita of any country in the world. Yeah. So we have a massive market for it. And as the demographic, as we go through the generations, and the older generation who look down on the sport a little bit, which is still around now, as they disappear, and the younger generations get older and they've grown up with the sport, it's going to be huge. But New Zealand is so far behind. Like, we are so far behind. Like, in terms of, like, my athletes have huge reach. Huge reach. Massive reach. Some of the biggest reach in this country amongst all sports stars. Yeah. But the New Zealand companies don't know this. They don't even know. They wouldn't have a clue. I've seen some of my athletes make deals with companies and literally on the back of their endorsement turn companies around.
Wow.
Yeah, turn companies around completely. Yeah. But they couldn't get a sponsorship in New Zealand to save themselves.
Yeah. What is that, Like,
it's just lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
It's lack of understanding. It's lack of social media nous. And it's lack of just understanding what these athletes' reach is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're just a small country, and anything that's trending is always going to come to us last.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Yeah. I can put together I can put together a $500,000 deal or $1 million deal for these athletes overseas. Yeah. But they've got bigger reach in New Zealand, and you couldn't put together.
Sometimes they won't even make the news.
Mate, you couldn't put together a deal with $5,000 with some of them. Like, they're just, companies in New Zealand are just, I don't know, they're very traditional. They're still controlled by the old heads.
Yeah.
They're still controlled by the old heads that have got control of the marketing budget and don't understand the way that the world is shifting. Yeah. So that's all it is, I think.
I think you touched on this earlier on, but I'm pretty sure it's Dana White who talks about, like, just knocking on the door, because eventually that person does leave, and then boom, the floodgates open, right? Like, that one barrier leaves the role or gets moved on, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in and goes, why are we not doing something in the UFC space? Why are we not doing something with CKB, the athletes?
I've literally seen that happen in many companies. I've literally seen that happening. There's New Zealand has always been a country full of athletic There's some good genes down here. There's some good genes down here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Some good genetics, and there's always going to be athletes. And as MMA gets bigger and bigger profile, more athletes, more of these young men with good genetics, they're going to gravitate towards MMA, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so my suggestion, this is a bit of a plug for all the MMA athletes out there, but my suggestion for these companies is learn about MMA and learn about the young fighters, learn about what sort of reach that they're going to have, and look to the future. Because some of the biggest stars in this country are going to be MMA athletes if they're not already some of the biggest sports stars in this country. So, yeah, there's a flood coming.
Get in early. Yeah. Hey, on fighter paydays, I could imagine there's probably been some big parties and some celebrations and some letting the shackles off.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that they look after themselves post-fight, but even financially, because their lives are completely changing financially, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Most of them nowadays, I'm going to say, are way more financially literate than when I was fighting, for instance.
Yeah,
and that's in part, honestly, thanks to modern technology. People like yourself. There's other great financial podcasts around New Zealand. A lot of the young fighters in my gym, their education literally comes from podcasts, YouTube,
awesome.
Spotify, you name it, from social media and stuff. So, but for the most part, they all have good help. It's so good help is so accessible if you know the right places to look. So most of them have very good advisors.
Awesome.
Now. And if they don't, then I definitely point them in the direction of some people that I trust that will look after them.
Nice.
So I don't give any direct financial advice to me.
Yeah.
I can give you advice on how to punch and how to defend a punch, but you won't be getting any financial advice from me. I'm not, I know my lane.
Yeah. The parties, though, we want to know about the parties. Any good parties?
The parties are crazy.
Yeah.
The parties get crazy.
Yeah.
Real crazy. And the boys party with a lot of people, nowadays. I think the last fight I was at, a couple of fights ago, Alex, he was hanging out with Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal was the guest at the party.
I think I saw some social media of that.
Yeah. It's just, it's nuts, mate. Like, but I stay away from the parties, brother.
Yeah.
I'm done with that years ago.
Yeah.
I can't, I have a party.
Yeah.
I'm done for 2 weeks. I'm not getting that, my whole schedule is done.
I was going to say, how's the man getting up at 4:30 if he's partying? He'll still be going somewhere.
I leave it to the young fellas, but I always send one of the older boys there.
Yeah. That's
one thing I've learned, when there's a bit of alcohol consumption going on and stuff, you got to have someone there with their head screwed on. So I always make sure one of the older coaches is accompanying the younger boys and just keeping an eye out. They're not being a helicopter parent, so to speak, but I definitely have a bit of comfort knowing that they're there just keeping an eye on things. Yeah.
There's a lot of responsibility on you, right? Because you're coaching these athletes, you're then helping them with their future. You're trying to help them be the best version of themselves. There's the gym to look after. There's classes. There's probably, hey, didn't start on time. What's going on? How do you cope with all of that pressure and responsibility yourself?
Through experience, bro, to be honest. Yeah, through experience. I'm not going to say. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to say that I've always coped with that really well. One of the real common questions is how do you get the work-life balance? How did you get it? And I just answered it straight, mate. I'm I never had any balance in my life, bro.
Yeah.
I just did this, and I failed at everything else. Dropped out of law school, never held down a job, 1,000 girlfriends, couldn't keep a relationship. That's not true. I've had one. I've been off my wife forever. But, I just basically said, no, I was no good at that. But, yeah, you just learn it. You just learn it over time, bro. Honestly, that's kind of been a bit of a theme of this podcast. Nothing, you don't just magically have these skills, you know.
Yeah.
Got to be learned over time.
Yeah. So has there ever been a time along this journey where you've gone, fuck this is just, it's too much, I'm done, or you nearly had enough?
Many times.
Many times.
Yeah, many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, many times. I mean, I wouldn't be human if I didn't have those times.
No.
I feel like even when you love something so much, there's only so much, you know, like I'm only human. There was times when I thought, man, what if I pursue something else? It's going to be so much better for my family. It's going to be so much easier for them. Be some financial security, you know, all those things. And you have your doubts. And then you know, those doubts often end up, you know, like, you know what, bugger this. I had enough. Let's go down that other route. But, you know, even though I've had those moments, I stayed true to the path. And I got reassurance, and I got family support. My wife supported me, my kids supported me, and but definitely had those moments, bro. You definitely had those moments. I think they're perfectly natural. I mean, I've even tried other stuff, to be honest. Yeah, but I've always been pulled back to what I love and just trying to make it work and grind it out. Yeah,
these athletes. The community and the country needs you doing what you're doing. It pulls you back. Do you take a moment to celebrate when you do have things going right? I feel like you've got so much on your plate that's probably hard to...
Yeah, I do take a little bit of a moment now. Yeah. I mean, Israel taught me that. He was really good at that. He's really good at that. A little bit too good, probably. But, you know, I'm the type of... I don't know whether it's just my personality is inclined for it, but I'm always the person that if we achieve a goal, then we just like, okay, well, that we no longer have to have anything to do with that. What's the next one?
Yeah.
Like almost immediately.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like immediately. Like Israel wins, celebrate the moment. But as soon as we win, before we probably walked out of the stadium, I'm already thinking of like, okay, so who's the next opponent going to be? What's the next goal? How long is Israel going to take off? Because he's going to come back out of shape after partying for 2 weeks. What are we going to have to do? My thoughts go immediately to that. That's just how I'm naturally inclined. I'll never be able to stop that. But having some good conversations with Israel has taught me that the main thing he's taught me is that the experiences that we're going through are finite. Yeah. Our time on this earth is finite. Therefore, our experience that we're having are finite. Just take a little moment. Take a little moment, a little bit more than what I am. Instead of immediately moving on to the next goal, just spend an hour or spend a night. Just don't be the coach. Let's just celebrate this. Come to the after party for 20 minutes and then disappear.
Yeah.
He's taught me that. He did a really good job. Grateful for that because he's probably right, you know. Just savor that moment before you move on so much.
Yeah. And
he's probably right. I probably do take that a little bit for granted. You know, you win a world championship, you know, don't move on to, like, that's one of the greatest achievements of that you can possibly achieve in fight sports. Savor the moment just a little bit longer than I've been doing. And I've been trying to put that into practice. So, yeah, I'm better at it nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody sees you out in the street, let's hit him up and ask him, you know, if he's been practicing his celebration. And I think as well, like on that, you know, for a lot of us, it's not just, you know, a big party or something, but it's actually just practicing stopping and going, like acknowledging the success, right?
I think it's good to do because it's like you get in this frame of mind where you're chasing, and then when you achieve and you don't celebrate it, it seems like you're on the chase constantly. And I'm definitely guilty of that because I'm chasing. Israel, you know, he achieves his goal, but then now Alex has got to defend his title and win the world championship.
Yeah.
And so then you're chasing again. And so it seems like it can seem like you're never actually achieving what you set out to achieve because you just don't spend quite long enough realizing, oh shit, we just spent our entire life trying to achieve this. And then we only stopped and smelt the roses for a split second and then we moved on to the next goal.
Yeah.
It just helps ground you and makes it not so tiresome. and seem like you're on the constant chase of these goals all the time. Yeah.
All right. Well, a few quick fire ones to wrap up. I guess we've just learnt there that you are human, but it does make me think, if you were to be forced to have a day off, what does a man like you do?
Rather, I'm hunting.
Hunting?
Yeah, that's my thing.
Nice.
Yeah. I started hunting about 15, 20 years ago, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And then that's just escapism for me. I just found that and I just loved it. I just loved that it's such the opposite environment that I'm in now. You know, like I travel every 3 or 4 weeks. I'm always in the biggest metropolitan cities in the world. So whether it's London or New York or Las Vegas, I'm never in a nice little small town. So it's always busy, and my gym's always busy with hundreds of people, and that's in the middle of Auckland City. And it's just the polar opposite of that, being in the middle of the bush with, you know, quite literally maybe where another human being's never ever stood before, with just my backpack and my rations and my gun.
Just you?
And just me. Normally I got some mates.
Yeah,
I got some mates with me, but we sometimes we disappear. They go down this side of the ravine, I go down this side, and then you just get moments of just, I don't know, you just get moments of clarity because you're the only person there.
Yeah.
Not another person for a million miles, no sound, nothing.
Does your brain start thinking about, like, is his next fight something, or does it?
It literally doesn't.
It doesn't.
And that's why I love it so much.
Yeah.
Because I've got to concentrate on that environment that I'm in and trying to concentrate on the off chance that I might spot a deer, which sometimes doesn't happen.
Yeah. But still a great refresher for you, right? Being in that environment.
Just taking my brain off the sport.
Yeah.
Has given me like a lot of power to feel. I've always felt good coming back after a week in the bush.
Yeah.
Always felt really energized.
If you were going to do this whole journey all over again, what would you do differently, if anything?
I would open up communication a little better earlier than I have. I feel like I'm very easy to communicate with now, and I'm talking about I'm good at communicating, you know, to my fighters, but I'm not very good at making myself available for them to communicate back to me. And I'm not talking in terms of the technical part and the technical analysis part. I'm talking about in terms of life.
Yeah.
Life. Sometimes I can be a little bit standoffish and not appear so welcoming. So I would just try and present myself as a little bit more of an approachable person. That could have helped a lot more people earlier if I was a bit more of an open book. Nowadays I'm okay. I've kind of like learned from that mistake. But yeah, that's one thing I'd change.
And I guess in your time, coaching has become a lot more about understanding the individual and what's going on in their personal life, right? But I'd imagine a long time ago, they're like, whoa, man, boundaries. We don't do that.
50-50. Like, now I'm a life coach half the time and I'm a technical coach the other half. And, you know, like, before that would be quite painstaking for me. I'd be like, man. But when I started coaching, it was all technical coaching. All technical coaching. I did not have to ever delve into into a young fighter's life. You know, they showed up at the gym, I did my job and they left. Yeah. Now it's changed so much. Yeah. Unbelievably changed. And this is the thing, like, I either just lament that, right? Or I adapt.
Yeah.
And and I have to adapt. You have to adapt to the way that young men and young women are nowadays. They're not like they used to be 15 or 20 years ago. They're a lot more open. They want to talk about their emotional part, their spiritual part of their life. They want to be an open book about it. It's okay to talk about a lot of things that were a little bit taboo to talk about back in the day. And also, I feel that the role models that we had back in the day, I would say are just different. They were different. They gave across a different aura, like they were more stoic. They didn't share things as much. And so that was just the way you were. nowadays we're in an age that, like these guys, if they're having trouble, they want to talk to you about it. And you've got to encourage that. That's the way of the new generation. So yeah, a lot of my coaching now is obviously the technical stuff, but a lot of it is, just sorting out, hey, man, what's wrong with you? What part of your life is affecting, your life's clearly being affected in the gym. What's going on with it? And they're willing to talk to you.
And have you gotten better at spotting that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've had to, like I said, I've had to adapt with this younger generation. And yeah, I would say that, this is what I'm going to say. I would say that the modern technology in our lives now is causing way more problems amongst young people than it ever previously has, especially with the generation that never actually had the technology.
Yeah.
All the inputs that come in now, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was influenced by my parents, and then at a certain age, I no longer had their influence. It was like the 4 or 5 good friends around me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe my brother and sister.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's maybe, you can almost count that on one hand, the amount of influences that I had on my life to shape me as a human being. Now it's just bananas, mate. Yeah. Now I would say that the human interactions that they have are less, are almost put on the sideline.
Yeah.
And they're almost being influenced by whatever stupid shit they're watching on social media.
Sad.
So that's what I'm dealing with. It's not creating a solid, ethical, strong young man and woman. It's just not doing that. Not the way that 4 or 5 close friends used to do it for me. And so what accompanies that is a whole lot of stuff that I have to deal with as a coach, which is fine. I've just got to do it. I
guess the good thing, though, going back to what we were talking about before of the aura of some of the athletes, is then you've got these role models within the gym that can probably give someone a bit of a, unfollow that, stop looking at that. No, that's not going to help you. Why are you, so it doesn't have to just be big bad Eugene. 100%. And we have a very good infrastructure now because the gym's been around for many years of a lot of we have generations and I mean, I name them, I have different groups. I have the 95ers, Yeah.
Everybody born after 95.
Yeah.
I have the 2000ers. I have the 2005ers. If I particularly want someone to sweep the mats, I'll say, anybody who's born after the year 2000, pick up a broom. And we pick on them a little bit. Yeah. We let them know that they're from a generation that grew up with an iPhone.
Yeah.
And we're just like, I don't know. For me, that's the kind of culture that I like. It's just to let those guys know that there's several generations in the gym and we've all brought up differently. Yeah, but we can all interact and be part of the same team and give each other a little bit of stick in terms of, what were you born with and what was I born without.
Special.
Yeah.
So this one's from a listener, and we'll ask it in 2 ways. If there was any fighter in the world right now, who would you want to train that's not part of your current crew?
The Chechen fighter, Khamzat Chimaev. He'd be cool to train.
Yeah.
He'd be cool to train, I think. And he'd be cool to train because there's some technical things that he can do with his stand-up that I think that would be really good for him. But he would be doing that under the condition that he wouldn't necessarily have to worry about being taken down because he's so good at the wrestling and the wrestling defense. Yeah.
Nice.
So you could learn some of the technical parts of the stand-up unabated. You wouldn't have to stress. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, if I'm training Israel, I do have to worry about him getting taken down by certain opponents. So I have to direct his strategy and his tactics in accordance to that. But you could just teach someone like Khamzat Chimaev and be unabated. You wouldn't have to worry about, you wouldn't necessarily have to worry about building in a strategy where he would have to always be in a position to defend himself just because he's just does that naturally. He'd be cool to train. There'd be heaps of people that's cool to train. Yeah. I'm not the kind of coach that I train whoever wants to train with me. You know what I mean? Like I've never asked in my time in this sport, I've never asked one single person to ever come to my gym and train with me. Not one.
Yeah.
Despite what people may think.
Wow.
I have not asked a single person to ever come and train with me, not a single fighter.
Shit.
Yeah.
The teacher appears when the student is ready.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Is there a past fighter that you would have liked to have trained? Or taken into, say, one fight?
John Fitch.
Yeah.
He's an old UFC fighter. And again, like a lot of the fighters that I would like to train are like heavy wrestling-based fighters. Yeah. Because I feel like with the fighters that I have now, we have the older generation fighters like Israel and that, they have a big background in stand-up. And so you've got to add the wrestling defense to that. But if you've already got someone that already has a big wrestling background, you only have to worry about refining their stand-up. And so you could spend more time doing that. And I think you'd make some proper inroads. Right now I have a generation of guys who are all very good wrestlers and grapplers. But the first generation that I dealt with, Israel and them, they came from a background of stand-up.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like now I'm working with guys that grew up grappling and wrestling. They grew up from when they were they're 18, 19 now, but they started grappling and wrestling when they were 10. So I'm dealing with a different athlete now. That's why I'm picking these particular guys.
So by the sounds of it, we're going to see more champions coming out of the City Kickboxing Gym.
Hopefully. I really don't know. Because do you understand that I'm dealing with a slightly different athlete now?
In terms of?
I've for the most part predominantly taken high-level athletes from another sport, kickboxing.
Yeah.
And I've transposed them into MMA and made them successful. Yeah. But now, the athletes that I'm working with now are young men and women who have been training grappling and MMA since they were 10 years old, and they're now 20. So they've already got more experience than Israel, Brad, and some of these guys than at grappling. They've had more experience in the sport, and they're only 20.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. But here's the difference. They never achieved a high level in any particular sport. So they're a more well-rounded athlete, but they had never reached a high level of their sport. That's been the sacrifice that they've had to make to be a more well-rounded athlete. They couldn't concentrate on one particular sport and reach a really, really high level. So this is the generation that I'm dealing with now.
Yeah.
Only time will tell. It might be that in 5 years you interview me and I'll be like, it's better to get a guy to a really high level of success in one sport and then turn them into a UFC fighter. Because I've got all these athletes that are really well-rounded, been training since they were young, but I haven't been able to achieve the amount of success that I had with this other generation. It's an interesting thing I'm going through.
I'll make a calendar reminder for 5 years' time, and we'll check in and we'll find out. One of my biggest takeaways from this, and I hope that other people take away from it, is voluntary adversity and just the importance of that. I do think you're right. I think we live in a world where it's like, if it's hard, try and avoid it, ignore it, do the easy thing. Yeah. And people in your role in your environment, they know that doing the hard thing is actually the right thing to do. Yeah. And we gain more by doing that. And doing the easy thing
100%
kicks our ass eventually. We've got to pay for it at some stage. But
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right on the money. I couldn't have said it any better.
Well, thank you for your time. I know we've probably had to sacrifice a class in this time. A pro fighter's missed his session, so I'm sorry. I thought we might go for about an hour, but I think we're coming up 2 hours. But, mate, well done on what you've achieved, what you continue to achieve, and I think people are so proud of you. I think mana and calmness are two words that fit with you, beyond just me, when I talk about you, those two words that come up. Keep doing your thing and keep exporting New Zealand to the world. And we'll check back in 5 years and see how many more champions have come out.
No, absolutely. And appreciate coming on the podcast, and appreciate what you're doing too. Because there's a lot of generations out there that need this platform, because we have no idea what financial literacy is. So I know that I learn from people like you. So I definitely know there's other people learning from you. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Wicked.